Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling worse about yourself, but you couldn't explain why? Have you ever done something you didn't want to do, and somehow convinced yourself it was your own idea? Have you ever felt guilty around someone, but couldn't point to a single thing they actually did? That confusion isn't random. That exhaustion isn't a coincidence. And that guilt you can't explain, someone put it there, on purpose. Because the most effective control in the world leaves no fingerprints. Friedrich Nietzsche spent his life studying people like this. Not from a distance, from the inside. He understood how manipulation actually works with a kind of precision that most people find deeply uncomfortable, because once you see it, you can't stop seeing it everywhere. These 7 signs are his warning. And sign 7 is the one that's been running in your life the longest, without you ever noticing. Stay until the end, because what you learn in the last 2 minutes will change the way you look at every relationship you're currently in. Before we go any further, type the number 1 in the comments right now if you've ever felt confused or drained around someone but couldn't explain why. Just the number 1. You'll be surprised how many people are sitting in the exact same situation as you. Sign 1. They control the mood of every room they walk into. Here's something most people never notice about the person who drains them. The emotional temperature of every interaction always follows their lead. When they're happy, the conversation is easy. When they're irritated, everyone goes quiet and starts adjusting. When they go cold and silent, you spend the next 20 minutes trying to figure out what you did wrong. But think about it. You never agreed to manage their emotional state. Nobody asked you to, but somehow, you're doing it anyway. Nietzsche called this one of the purest expressions of power working at a social level. The person who controls the mood of a room controls the room, not through threats, not through force, through trained anxiety. They slowly but quietly taught you that their discomfort is your problem to fix. And most people mistake this for sensitivity, for someone who just feels things deeply. It's not sensitivity, it's leverage. You've been paying the emotional bill for it every single time you're in the same space as them. Drop the name of this sign, emotional weather control, in the comments if someone just came to mind. Don't name them, just drop the sign. You'll know why. Sign 2 is even harder to catch, and it works through something that looks exactly like love. Sign 2, they make you need their approval just to feel okay about yourself. This one doesn't happen overnight. It builds slowly, across months, across small moments where your confidence gets quietly chipped at. Are you sure that's the right call? I just worry about you sometimes. I hope you know what you're doing. None of those lines feel like attacks. That's why they work. Nietzsche understood that the most effective way to control someone isn't to dominate them openly. It's to make them doubt themselves so consistently, so quietly, that they start needing your reassurance just to move forward. Most people never realize it's happening. They just know that around this person, they feel slightly less sure of themselves, slightly less capable, slightly more in need of someone else's approval before they act. But that's not a coincidence. That's a system that was built, one quiet comment at a time, to make your confidence dependent on their input. Here's the crazy part. The moment you need someone's approval to feel good about a decision, they own the decision. They own you. Comment approval trap right now if you've ever caught yourself waiting for a specific person's reaction before you felt okay about something you'd already decided. That moment of recognition alone is worth more than you think. Sign 3 is how they make sure you never fully walk away, even when part of you knows you should. Sign 3. They use your past against you, but they call it honesty. You opened up to them once. You told them something real, a fear, a failure, a moment you weren't proud of, and they responded with warmth and understanding. It felt like real connection. Here's the crazy part. That information didn't disappear. It went into storage, and it comes back out, not as a weapon exactly, but as a quiet reminder at exactly the right moment. You know how you tend to overthink things. Given what happened last time, are you sure about this? I just remember how badly that situation hit you. Nietzsche called this the weaponization of intimacy. It doesn't look like cruelty. It looks like someone who knows you well and is being honest about your patterns. But real honesty builds you up. This kind of honesty, the kind that shows up exactly when you're about to do something that moves you away from their influence, isn't honesty at all. It's containment. Your vulnerability wasn't received. It was filed, and it gets used to keep you smaller than you could be, at the exact moments you might have grown beyond their reach. Type "filed" in the comments if someone has ever used something personal you shared against you at the worst possible moment. Just that one word. Let's see how many people have lived through this exact thing. Sign 4 is the one most people recognize immediately, and still can't protect themselves from. Sign 4. They're always the victim, and somehow you're always the one who caused it. Think about every hard conversation you've ever had with this person. How did it end? Did it end with the actual issue getting addressed? Or did it end with you apologizing for how you brought it up? Did it end with your concern being heard? Or did it end with you managing their reaction to your concern? This is the pattern Nietzsche identified as one of the most powerful moves available to someone who needs to avoid being held accountable. The second a difficult truth gets close to them, the whole frame shifts. Suddenly, it's about your tone, your timing, your history of being difficult, your inability to say things without making them feel attacked. Most people think this is just someone who struggles with criticism. It's not. It's a redirect, a deliberate pivot that moves the conversation off their behavior and drops it squarely on yours. Every single time, the person who is always the victim in every story they tell is rarely a victim. They're the director, and you've been cast as the person who keeps causing their suffering without ever auditioning for the part. Comment redirected if you've ever gone into a conversation with a legitimate concern and somehow walked out apologizing. That experience has a name now, and you're not crazy for feeling it. Sign 5. They rewrite what happened, and they do it with so much confidence that you start doubting your own memory. You remember the conversation clearly. You remember what was said, how it landed, and why it hurt. And then they tell you, calmly, without hesitation, with total certainty, that's not what happened. I never said that. You're remembering it completely wrong. You always do this. You take everything out of context. Nietzsche understood that reality, for most people, isn't what actually happened. It's the most confidently delivered version of what happened. The person who can rewrite a shared memory without flinching gains something extraordinarily powerful. They gain control of the past. And the person who controls the past controls the present. Because if you can't trust your own memory, you can't trust your own judgment. And the person who has slowly dismantled your trust in your own judgment becomes the person you rely on to tell you what's real. That's not a relationship. That's a closed system. And you were never meant to find the exit. Most people never realize this. They just know that around this person, reality feels slightly negotiable. And that feeling, right there, is the sign. Drop "my memory is real" in the comments if someone has ever made you question your own recollection of something that genuinely happened. You need to see how many people are in there with you right now. Sign 6. They take constantly and only give when it costs them nothing. Think about the actual exchange in this relationship, not what gets performed, what actually moves between you. Who checks in after a hard week? Who remembers the small details? Who shows up without being asked? And then ask the harder question. When they do give, what does it actually cost them? Nietzsche was precise about this. He said that generosity performed for an audience, or generosity that costs nothing, isn't generosity at all. It's image management. It's brutal, but it's human. The manipulator gives loudly and publicly when giving builds their reputation, and takes quietly and privately when the cost falls only on you. Over time, that imbalance becomes the entire relationship. You're the resource, they're the consumer, and the reason you haven't left is because the public version of them, the version other people see, doesn't match the private version you've been living inside. That gap between who they are publicly and who they are privately is one of the most reliable signs you will ever encounter. Comment 2 faces if the person you're thinking about right now is completely different in public than they are behind closed doors. Watch the comments on this one. It will tell you everything about how common this actually is. Sign 7 is the last one, and it's the one that's been there the longest. Give me 60 more seconds, because this last sign reframes everything that came before it. Sign 7. You've become a smaller version of yourself around them, and you got used to it so gradually that you stopped noticing. This is the hardest one to catch, because it doesn't happen in a single moment. It builds across months, across small adjustments you made just to keep the peace, small opinions you stopped sharing because they always led somewhere exhausting, small ambitions you mentioned once, and their reaction was enough to make sure you never mentioned them again. Small pieces of who you are, quietly set aside, to make the relationship more manageable. Nietzsche called this the gradual erasure of the self, the most complete form of control, because the person being controlled participates in it willingly. They make the adjustments themselves. They call it compromise. They call it maturity. They call it just how things are now. Most people never realize what's actually happening. They just know that the version of themselves inside this particular relationship is quieter, more careful, and smaller than the version that exists everywhere else. And the terrifying part is how normal it has come to feel. That feeling of normalcy isn't peace. It's the feeling of someone who has forgotten what they were like before the walls started closing in. Right now, in the comments, tell me this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much of yourself have you had to shrink in a relationship or friendship to keep the peace? Just a number. 1 means barely anything. 10 means you barely recognize that version of yourself anymore. Drop your number. I read every single one. 5 things to do starting right now. 1. Start trusting what your body is telling you. If you consistently feel smaller, more confused, or strangely guilty around a specific person, that's information. Your gut is keeping score even when your brain is still making excuses. 2. Stop explaining your limits. The person who needs a long justification for your no is already negotiating to remove it. You don't owe anyone a defense for protecting yourself. 3. Watch who they are when nothing is at stake. The version of someone that shows up when no one important is watching, when there's nothing to gain, is the real version. Judge from there. 4. Notice who you are when they're not around. If you consistently feel more confident, more clear, and more like yourself in their absence, their presence is the problem. 5. Stop filling the silence they manufacture. A lot of manipulation runs on manufactured discomfort. Someone goes quiet, someone looks hurt, and you rush in to fix it. Stop rushing. Let the silence be theirs to sit in. Here's what Nietzsche would say to you directly. You weren't manipulated because you were weak. You were manipulated because you were open. Because you gave people the benefit of the doubt before they earned it. Because you extended trust before it was proven. That's not a flaw. That's what it looks like to be someone who still believes in people. The goal isn't to stop believing in people. The goal is to make people show you, through consistent behavior, over time, that they deserve the version of you that is open, generous, and trusting. Until they do, observe, stay sharp, and stop apologizing for seeing clearly. The strong mind doesn't go cold after learning this. It gets selective. And being selective isn't cynicism. It's the highest form of self-respect you have access to. The world will keep sending you people who are very good at appearing safe. Your job, from this moment forward, isn't to suspect everyone. It's to become someone who can't be fooled for long. Now here's what I want you to do. If this video names something you've been living inside without having words for, drop the word free in the comments right now. Not because it's a trend, because that's exactly what this knowledge actually gives you. Not paranoia, freedom. And I want to see how many people are walking out of this video lighter than they walked in. If you're watching this and you're currently in a situation you now have words for, comment, I see it now. That comment alone might be the beginning of something important for you. And if someone in your life needs to see this, send it to them today. Don't overthink it. Don't write a long message. Just send the video. Because some people are still inside the room without realizing the walls have been moving this whole time. That share might be the most important thing you do for someone today. Subscribe right now if you want to keep seeing how people actually operate beneath the surface. Not the version people perform, the real version. The next video goes even deeper into the mechanics most people spend their entire lives never seeing. Hit the notification bell, because this kind of content doesn't always find its way back to you unless you tell the algorithm you want it. This channel isn't for everyone. It's for the ones who are done being the last to know.